We are live. We are. Are we?
Hello.
Yes, we are. Hello. Hey, everyone in the live chat. I see you. I see you. I see Maggie's here. I see Ghost Bunny's here. I see Katie. I see Robert. I see Soha. I see Terrell. I see a lot of people. So, do we have any announcements before we're going to get into the news? We have 10 news items. Okay. Oh, thank you for fixing my name, Sis. I forgot to do that. Thank you. But yes. So do we have no announcements, right? We're just going to head to the news, right?
Merry Arminus, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
It's the reason for the season. Scott. Scott says, Armin, I'm not gay, but you're hot. Okay.
It's you. I know it's mean. I know I'm being mean. Okay. But that's not the right you're. Okay. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Do you still think he's hot now, Scott? Happy Axel Tilt, everyone.
All right. But thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Cool. All right.
Says, oops.
And English is my second language. And Scott, I think it's your first. So
Scott, just know that he's using this moment to correct your English because it makes him feel pretty good about his English.
He doesn't think I'm hot anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Yes, we're having a party. No, actually, how's it? Okay, wait. Before we get into the news, Susanna, how's the news? Is it like sad, or mostly positive, negative?
We have some
A mix.
It's a mix. I would say majority good news this week.
Really? That's an
Yes.
unusual week. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And
okay.
some of the good news is fantastic news.
It's super, super good news.
Okay.
The highest note is coming last.
Okay.
This is last.
I think we should put the depressing ones. I think we should. The order should be funny ones at the beginning, the depressing, sad ones in the middle, and end with the good news.
That's usually how I structure it.
Really? Okay, good.
I usually go like crazy right-wing pastor because that gets a lot of engagement.
Yes.
And then I go second is usually some vegetables, something that's important for us to talk about that's historic, like this week.
Yes.
And then, fill in with other stuff that went on. And then last week, from now on, I'm trying to end as positive as possible. And this week, we're ending fantastically. Like the best, one of the best news items we've had since April. So
I'm sorry.
Formidable.
I'm sorry, Ghost Bunny. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, Ghost Bunny, I will pay attention to your. Again, guys, if we say SIMP, is because Twitch apparently sees that as a word that we can't use anymore. I don't know. So we're saying SIM. I will pay attention to my SIMPs, okay? And what the. Okay, sure.
I mean, Armin is a slut.
Sure. Yes.
Your secret Santas.
Yes. All right.
And Ankush is saying, love the blasphemy arts. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll also be releasing a new draft after the news is done tonight.
Yes, guys.
We are so close to 300 patrons. And do you guys know what happens when we get to 300 patrons? We are going to start making animation. Blasphemous, sexy animation, guys.
Yes. Get us to 300 patrons. Link in the description.
Yes.
That's
another good news item.
Yes. All right. Let's get into the first news, which we can clap for, right? Clappable?
Yeah.
First news.
Wait.
What?
Let's comment from Vince.
Can I ban him?
No, that's a compliment.
Oh, wait. What is that? Why is it a compliment?
Armin isn't slutty. He's just a key that opens every lock.
Okay. Fine.
That's a compliment.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Okay.
Hold on.
First news. Christian pastor sobs and begs God to give Trump the presidency. In the United States of America, during a live stream titled, quote, Petitioning the Courts of Heaven for America in Perilous Times, American pastor Robert Henderson got a bit weepy while imploring God to enable Trump to be granted a second term despite Joe Biden's election win. Quote, we petition the courts and we ask, Lord, that it is written in the books of heaven, as it has been ordained in the councils of heaven, that President Donald J. Trump shall be reset and be reseated as the President of the United States, prayed Henderson, his voice cracking with emotion as sad music played in the background.
Aww.
And I provided you with the video.
Yes, I'll have it right here. Hold on. There we go.
Wait, there are more people who want to be gay for you in the chat tonight.
Okay, get in line. Wait, but woman in the front.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, let's watch this.
We petition the courts and we ask, Lord, that as it is written in the books of heaven, as it has been ordained in the councils of heaven,
This guy.
In the background.
Donald J. Trump
Oh.
Oh
shall
no!
be reset
Is it?
and shall be reseated
Oh,
as the President of the United States of America.
is it real tear?
You, Lord, will arise and you will cause my president,
Oh my god!
my president, Donald J. Trump, to be reset, to be reseated. Jesus.
Oh, that's so sad.
Would you grant that it would be done, Lord?
Oh my god! What?
Wait.
He's verklempt.
Wait, can we rewind about 30 seconds because I want everyone just to pay attention to the facial expressions of the guy in the background.
Yeah, that was.
Arton is saying, wait, shoot, where'd it go? That guy behind regrets his decisions. He's like looking left to right, like, what?
Would you grant that it would be done, Lord?
Oh my god!
The guy at the back. Why am I still here? Oh, Armin. Oh, this is what we're here for. Are you ready to collect some salty right-winger tears?
Ooh, like it.
Armin
Like
is saying, can you stop riding the leftism wave and stick to the atheism?
How is this not atheism? This guy's praying to God. You guys are so triggered. I love how triggered our right-wingers are. That even when we have a pastor that is praying to God and crying about Trump losing, even when it's so relevant to religion, they always have that line they go to, stick with atheism. This is religion. Like how, like they don't, this is how simple-minded they are, because they always, every time they see something on Atheist Republic they don't like, their go-to line is stick to atheism or stick to religion, that they don't even notice, like, oh wait, this is actually a pastor in a church. This is our go-to type of content that we have been making for the past 15 goddamn years. That's how dumb you guys. This is how dumb the MAGA people are.
No, and it was so funny, like, before we started live, Armin and I were watching Ethan and Ela Klein earlier, like, review right-wing pastors, and they were talking about, like, how come, we have a separation of church and state, but we don't have, like, the separation of, like, church from politics? Like, and Ethan Klein was saying, it's like, if they're gonna get this overtly political on the pulpit, like, you should be taxed. And then my favorite part was he was talking about a pastor who was talking about, like, pulling up photos of the ballots, counting the ballots. They're flipping tables. God was flipping the tables. And he's like, why is your God so pathetic that he needs to like interfere in the ballot counting instead of just winning the election outright, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Why?
he's testing their faith or whatever.
Oh.
Just so, like, God is edging them. He's like,
Of course. It always comes back to etching.
God is like, you want Trump to win? Like, I'm gonna make it seem like he's gonna lose to the very last second. You just pray. Here's a win for you. I like, the sweet release, like happy ending for Trump supporters. They just like all wet their pantses. But yeah, that's I think what God is doing. God wants you to be just beg one last time. Yes, God is edging.
Well, I was just thinking, like poor little paralyzed child praying to God to walk again. No, says God. Guy praying that they overturn an election. Yeah, sure. Got nothing better to do, says God.
Wait, Armin, should God is always edging be a t-shirt? Oh my gosh. Wait, Murtad Skeptic is saying someone is about to take the record from the Dead Sea for the salinity of their tears.
It's funny how the same people, when we collect woke tears, right? These like right wingers, they're like they never say like, oh, stick with atheism, stick with religion, right? The right wing followers of Atheist Republic, when we like point out the stupidity coming from the woke, they're like, oof, yes, this is it. And when some far lefty people come and say, stick with atheism, what is this? It's the right wingers that say, whoa, no, they can talk about whatever they want. But as soon as we turn on their favorite people, they're like, stick with religion, stick with atheism. Why are you even talking about this? Like, I don't know. Such hypocrite.
Robert Paulson is saying picking on Christianity is like picking on the mentally disabled kid in the wheelchair. I could not disagree with you more strongly. There is no other religion that poses as much of a threat to secularism in the United States than Christianity. Okay,
right.
He's saying it's a low hanging fruit because it poses no real threat.
Oh yeah, your comparison would be accurate if the kid in the wheelchair was
carrying an AK, a Kalashnikov.
it was responsible. Is responsible for people getting us into a lot more wars across the planet just because they want to see the end of times, and they are taking us out of, I don't know, agreements with the rest of the planet on how to fight global warming and all, because who cares anyways? This planet's supposed to end. Like yeah, sure. Like if the kid in the wheelchair is responsible for so much misery, and yeah, Rivka. Yeah.
So I want to say that I actually think it does have a huge threat, because what the Bible does or does not say, or what you think the Bible should do for the country, or your belief about what your religion says, prohibition or dogma, none of those have any place whatsoever in a secular republic. So bringing that even into the conversation, what that starts to do is it just starts opening the door, creaking it through a little bit more, one little brick, a little bit of mortar on the wall coming down. And it's a huge threat to the republic, because it's just whittling away at this separation. It's whittling away at the idea that your set of belief systems with your religion, those are yours. You can think what you want, pray how you want, but bringing them into a discussion in terms of policy, or, as a reality that we should all subscribe to with regard to how we're going to make decisions, or things that we know are true, all of that has absolutely no place whatsoever in any discourse in terms of how policy's made, government. Sorry. So I think that in and of itself is the threat.
Charles is saying, Susanna, in the U.S., the kid in the wheelchair might actually be carrying an AK.
Pew, pew, pew.
Okay, we do need to go back a little bit back to the news. I do want to highlight some of the comments here. So the title was Christian pastor saying we petition the courts of heaven. So this one was good. The courts of heaven have no jurisdiction in the United States.
Exactly.
Yes. Ken is saying, why does heaven need courts? Do they have crime up there? Do they have crime up there? Why
We
would the
need
what-
heavenly justice reform.
why would the courts up there be able to judge earthly matters like an election? If they are using these courts to judge us down here on earth, we should know more about them. That's really good. Okay, hold on a second. Everything happens according to God's plan. So he planned on Trump losing. This guy doesn't trust God's plan. He's praying, and his praying is an act of doubt on not faith. Last time I used that argument with a theist on Facebook, I was told I would burn in hell. Logic doesn't work on them. Here's another one. Pastors must be Trump supporters out of respect for a fellow con artist. Okay. I don't understand what these people see in Trump. Why are they so, even if they think the country is going to be a better place, why are they so emotionally attached to him? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I just feel like I want to slap him and give him a hug at the same time, right? Because I feel like they're, what made you like this? Like, you look, you're so sad. You're so sad. Like, I want to slap them to make them snap out of it. But also, it's like an idiot kid that doesn't know what's good for him. Is like crying, like, I don't want to do my homework. I don't know. I just feel like I just feel they're so dumb sometimes. I don't know. I feel like I feel sorry for them, and I want to slap them at the same time. I don't know. But anyways, are we gonna go? Can I clap for the next news?
Yes. Big clap. Big clap.
Next news.
Next news. Guys, this is historic. An amazing achievement and victory for the activism of many people who are aligned similarly to us. So, the United States Senate passes resolution condemning, quote, blasphemy, heresy, and apostasy laws. The United States Senate has recently passed Senate Resolution 458, sponsored by the Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. This follows the U.S. House of Representatives' near unanimous vote to pass House Resolution 512, which also called for the global repeal of apostasy, blasphemy, and heresy laws. The Senate's adoption of this resolution solidifies Congress's commitment to prioritizing the repeal of draconian blasphemy and apostasy laws in the United States' relationships with foreign governments. These bipartisan resolutions demonstrate a pledge from the United States government to promote the value of free expression and free speech on a global scale.
Can I play this video?
Well, no, that's from the House of Representatives. So that was what
Okay.
came first, I believe, about 2 weeks ago.
Right. I thought we were gonna, because last time we played this video, it was like really, really good. So I thought this is
That's the
second
same video.
All right. I mean, we already commented on this last week, but this is now confirmed. We were just hoping it will pass, and now it did, right? So this is great. This is going to set a major precedent, and I hope it becomes a role model for other countries to follow. Guys, don't let them tell you that politicians are not. This needs to be rewarded, right? This needs to be rewarded. Like, you guys, even if you think this doesn't have any teeth, at some point, if you keep rewarding politicians for doing stuff like this, they're going to notice that there's a demand for this. And this is a way, if you signal to them that you care about this, then these other politicians might see this as a way to collect votes. So give them what they want. Whatever their intentions are, if they do something that is right, it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be celebrated, and you need to show other politicians that if they get on this bandwagon, you're gonna congratulate them. Don't be so anti-politician that you can think you think that they're never gonna get anything done that is useful. This is an example. This is a clear example of something that is, really good for the entire planet. So get on that and show some support. Rivka wants to say something.
Well, yeah. So when we talked about the House passing this, about 2 weeks ago, there was some discussion of whether the Senate would even take it up at all, or would they pass it? And so not only did they pass it, they passed it unanimously.
Even better than in the House.
The House had 3 dissenters, 3 nays. There were some abstentions both in the House and in the Senate, but the Senate resolution passed with unanimous consent. So very, very impressive, very important, really good work. The fact that it was unanimous is very impressive and really great to see. And yeah, that's what's pretty interesting too, is that, especially like James Langford from Oklahoma, not usually on the separation of church and state, bandwagon, but he was the sponsor of this bill, and this bill passed unanimously in the Senate. So good work, United States Senate and House of Representatives.
I've seen him speak on the subject multiple times. I went to a United States hearing, well, virtually, on the issue of blasphemy laws and him speaking about it. And from, I'm not super familiar with his history, but my observations is that he's, a pretty serious Christian, but he speaks so passionately. He's such an erudite speaker when speaking about the importance of this subject. And I always appreciate him for every single time he talks about this, highlighting it is a fundamental human right for people to have their belief, change their belief, or have no belief at all. He says that every single time.
It's very good that he says that last part, because so many people forget about us atheists when they try to promote tolerance. And sometimes they go as far as saying we all should accept each other because we all worship the same God, as if screw the, we all could agree with each other to screw the atheists, right? Can make that a uniting factor. And given that atheists are one of the most discriminated groups on the planet, it's so amazing how many people get together, and when they want to promote tolerance, they forget about atheists. They say no matter what religion or God you worship or believe, hello, this is atheists are the number one group out there that need protection right now. And so it's really good to see that some politicians actually acknowledging lack of belief as well, which is really nice.
Yeah, so I'm super excited by this, and I'm just so happy that this is going to be the repeal of blasphemy and apostasy laws is going to be a priority in the United States international relationships now. Okay? This is a huge deal, you guys. This means we're coming after foreign governments who abuse their citizens under these draconian laws. And there are currently 84 countries in the world that have some form of blasphemy law on the books, okay? That is an increase from the amount of blasphemy laws that were on the books about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it was around 70. It has increased, okay? Now, the thing is...
to how much? How much is it now?
70, and it's now 84.
It used to be 70 now, but...
See, this is something everybody would assume would have been reduced, but it's actually increased.
Another thing that's increased...
Guys. Not only did it increase in the past couple of years, it increased despite the total repeal of these laws in around 15 to 17 countries.
Wow.
Okay.
Who are these countries that are adding new blasphemy laws? For what goddamn reason?
Well, there's been an issue with a German internet law that is widely perceived to be against blasphemy. Yay! And this is for our international audience. I really hope that this really gives you guys a lot of inspiration.
You have to say what you say yes to, because some people are listening to our podcast.
I don't know how to say this name. I'll just call you Mob. Mob is saying, as someone who lives in the Middle East, I'm so excited. Exactly. Your rights are going to be prioritized in a whole different level in our international relationships. There was something else I was going to say. So there are 84 countries in the world. That is over a third of the world's countries that have blasphemy laws in the books, okay? On the books. However, there are a little over 40 countries in the world that actually enforce it, okay? So there is the opportunity for a lot of low-hanging fruit to be cut from this tree from all of these countries that do not actually actively enforce these laws. They're just sitting there, but they're not being enforced. So I think that is a room for a lot of improvement. I think you guys have more comments, but Joseph also had a very dumb comment. I'm sorry, Joseph. Joseph is saying atheists need activists now. The whole point is we shouldn't care. What do we need activism for? And no offense, every country should just worry about themselves. Joseph, are you not concerned about the fact that there are over 10 countries in this world where you can be put to death by your state for leaving Islam? Because I'm pretty concerned about that. That affects a lot of people. Are you not concerned about the state of secularism in India, where the dissolution, the corruption, the consistent destruction of the separation of church and state in India affects 1 in 7 people on this planet? Okay, that's pretty concerning to me. And both of those examples I gave affect a lot more people than just atheists. Okay, what we do benefits everyone.
Well, I want to agree with that, but I also want to take it on a different tactic and say, sure, just worry about yourself, but just worrying about yourself, unfortunately, especially in this globalized environment, economy, that world that we live in now, all of the actions of a lot of other countries or people or sets of belief systems do impact other people, particularly if they bring that to you, either on, as they make a choice about it, or somehow it clashes with, in terms of like different society groups within a country. And then also, for example, the fact that this law talks about the United Nations, this resolution talks about the United Nations, which has been repeatedly in the last few years trying to make a United Nations resolution about not being able to mock or criticize religion. So that is something that's worldwide, but we're a part of and we participate in, so it affects us. And then also this idea of our values as Americans in terms of freedom of expression, freedom of thought, the freedom to have a religion or have no religion. Those are the things that we want to be promoting. And I think that countries just worrying about themselves, that was a lot of the policies that was going on, particularly in the United States, the Wilsonian idea, the appeasement ideas and things like that ended up happening, that led to some really horrific human rights violations all over the world that we ended up involved in, regardless of whether we wanted to at some point or not. So there's no leaving anybody 100% alone in terms of policies when they're impacting your country, or when you're doing business with them and they want something from you. That's a really good negotiating point.
Yeah, Joseph can go fuck himself. Unlike people like Joseph here, we actually care about our fellow human beings, regardless of their location that they were born in. We're not just atheists; we're also humanists. And people like Joseph, if they don't give a shit about their fellow human beings, they could stop caring and they could go fuck off. We care, and we want to see whatever we can do to improve the lives for the people who live on this planet, not just for the people who live close to us or within the borders that we have been born in. So this anti-humanist attitude is something that we fight against, and we have been very effective at it. And yeah, so yeah, Joseph, you can go fuck off.
Yeah, Joseph is stating, I also stated that the U.S. or United Nations all they can do is ask and apply economic pressure to those countries. Good, they should.
Yeah.
Promote away, but there is not a thing a country can do to another country on a one-on-one basis. You're assuming I don't care about other humans, but it should be self-determination. Would you argue self-determination about the Yahtzees, as we call them here during World War II? For those people who don't know what I'm talking about,
I care, but we're not going
Armin,
to do
let me
anything
finish.
about it. No.
For those who don't know what I'm talking about, we have to use coded language here because of YouTube. We call the bad people in World War II Yahtzees. Okay, if you can't figure it out, I don't know what to tell you. That self-determination in certain circumstances doesn't work very well, does it? Oh my gosh. Okay. I got triggered.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else to say?
No, yeah, I just want to say that these people, they're just like, oh yeah, we care, but we don't want to do anything about it, and it's up to them. No, we live on this planet together, we share this planet together, and we have to help each other out. These borders should not stop us to, this is people like, yeah, I care, but we're just gonna
but don't put me in a position where I have to think, feel, or act,
or I could do anything about it. Yeah. Because it's outside of these borders, I'm gonna wash my hands off of it. Yeah. An excuse to completely ignore any responsibility that you may have for your fellow human beings. You're basically selfish people who just American centric or UK centric, or just only care about people that are within their own backyards. They're selfish, self-centered people. Yes, humanism has no borders. Perfect summary. Thank you. All right.
Oh my gosh. P.O. is saying, are you assuming people in those countries don't care about themselves and need
what an
you?
Idiot comment.
P.O., in certain circumstances, there are entire populations that are being held hostage by their effing government, okay? Like,
what?
They do care about them. They do care about themselves, but they still fucking need us, okay?
And no one's saying that no one can't advocate for themselves. What we're trying to do is stand in solidarity with people whose values we hold this important, and we're trying to use what influence we might have to aid our fellow human beings and to end suffering.
So it's very interesting.
So when someone reaches out their hand to you to help you up when you've fallen down, it's not an assumption that you can't get up. It's simply a message of brotherhood and compassion to help you up.
It's very interesting because these seem the same idiots. If you see like a country, for example, from, I don't know, Indonesia helps people in the Philippines, right? Because they care about their neighbors or something, they would see that as a message. Oh my God, so much support. It's just only like white countries or Western European or North American countries that they want not to extend their care and passion for their fellow human beings, right? It's just they see this as any sort of involvement because they have this history of like ruling over or being abusive to people. They don't see that there's any other way for one people from one country to all of a sudden extend their care to people from another country other than that abusive. They've been brainwashed to think that any kind of relationship has to be abusive, right? Or to control over the rights and freedom of people of another country. They don't know there's an alternative. There's ways for you to care about other human beings and people from other countries. Every country, people from no country is in isolation, right? Every other country could use the help and support from people from other countries as well. And again, if we treat this planet as something that we all share together rather than each country on its own, every country on its own, we all progress faster together. Anyways, Susanna, you say, but then we have to go to the next news.
Yes, I just want to highlight like two last really good comments. Katie is saying, yes, U.S.-India ties are likely to get tighter in the near future. So this is really good news for India as well. I agree because the situation there is getting real rough. Mars also said there's also the matter of the Tutus and Hutsis, the Uyghur and Rohingya Muslims. No, Justif and Pio, we are humanistic principles for all people. I agree.
I just want to highlight one comment to show how dumb these people are. People, I don't give a fuck about your words.
Same.
Says the person that is constantly getting triggered by our words. Sure, but you don't care about words. Anyways, we need to go to the next news. Can we clap for this one? Yes, I think we can. Yes. Next news.
Next news. EU court backs ban on animal slaughter without stunning. In the European Union, the European Court of Justice has supported a Belgian ban on kosher and halal slaughter of animals without being stunned, rejecting both Jewish and Muslim groups' objections. Stunning livestock before slaughter will now be required on the grounds of furthering animal rights. Animal rights group Gaia said it was a great day and the culmination of a 25-year struggle. While the court accepted that imposing such a requirement limited Muslim and Jews' religious rights, it did not ban ritual slaughter outright. The court also noted that the Flemish Parliament had relied on scientific evidence, which indicated that prior stunning reduced animal suffering and that the law allowed, quote, a fair balance to be struck between animal welfare and freedom of religion.
This is so good, such a good news. This is basically religion's privilege not winning over. They're like, we found a way to be able to slaughter animals without less abuse, with less pain. And these people are like, excuse me, my Sky Daddy says I have to torture my animals, have to be exempt because we need to torture them because of our religious. Like, why would this? I mean, if this went any other way, I would be so mad right now. It would be so mad right now. It was such an obvious thing to do, such a great way of making sure that there's less misery on this planet. And these people are like, can we actually have more misery? Can this law apply to everybody except us? Because you guys, your government should have to accept our divine authority, like, accept the source of we just say that this scripture has comes from some divine source, and you guys as secular governments have to just accept that and just submit to our way of life and our tradition, even though it's more barbaric and causes a lot more harm and misery. Like, why would anybody listen to that? Why is religious privilege acceptable anywhere? Like, and again, they're going to come out and say that this is discrimination, right? Even though it's against every religion, right? Like Muslims and Jews at the same time, right? This is fantastic. This is a way that EU is showing that they are moving forward. I don't know what is it like in the US, but I hope this sets a precedent, because this needs to be celebrated so other countries, so that it basically normalizes banning religious slaughtering, so other countries maybe use it as a role model to move forward as well. Rivka, you want to say something?
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Fleming Rose who says that when a believer demands that non-believers observe their religious taboos in the public domain, they're not asking for respect. What they're asking for is submission. And that's incompatible with a secular democracy. So absolutely, Armin, you're right. And this is sort of what I was talking about this is what I was talking about to some degree when I was saying why it's important to challenge religious privilege in the first story, because what your beliefs or taboos or dogma is, as it relates to the public domain, is incompatible. It doesn't matter. You can practice those, but what you can't do is demand the rest of the country adhere to those. And so this is a good balance, saying, look, you can still ritually slaughter, and the ritual slaughter is about killing the animals alive. So stunning them, they're still alive. So they're getting the blood sacrifice that their deity demands. So it's not discrimination. What it is it's living with your neighbors and coming to a compromise based on a nation of laws, not a nation of men.
Wait, I just want to highlight really quick. Where did it go? That people are saying that they're excited that Rivka's back. I always love when you guys mention that you missed Rivka, because I always miss Rivka when she can't make it. Houston is saying, is this becoming a war against religion? It's been that way, Houston.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so, yes.
Oh my God, Joseph is giving us crap in the live chat saying we have to be vegetarians now. All of us here eat meat.
Okay, yeah. No, forget that. You give too much credit in highlighting the dumbest comments.
No, I know, but I know other people on YouTube enjoy that. So it's mainly for their entertainment.
And I don't see why this makes anyone have to be vegetarian.
No, it's too dumb to even address, though. It's like Rivka, like this, of course.
All right,
not.
forget it.
Yeah, no, but I do want to, like, it needs to be like somewhat dumb, but so, yeah, anyways. Jason saying need to completely ban the kosher slaughter techniques as well. Not sure why. Do search and educate yourself. I do want to highlight some people who are, there's a lot of comments who are saying that all animal industries should be stopped. They're unethical and result in viruses. Stop killing animals altogether. Something they've got. Okay, ban all slaughter and lock up anyone who does it. Okay, so this is a lot of comments were like this, and this is why I think a lot of vegans are actually really harmful to animal rights, right? Because the way of black and white thinking they have is that they don't acknowledge any form of progress, and they are actually, I think there's a lot of animals that are being tortured today because of the way the black and white thinking that a lot of, not all, but a lot of vegan activists have. Because no progress, they would not support any form of progress, and in fact they dismiss it. And all the resources, like veganism has been associated with animal rights activism has been associated with veganism, and so many people, because they think it means completely abandoning meat, are not putting the resources and time and energy that is required to reduce a lot of torture and misery when it comes to factory farm, just because people think that, oh, it must mean veganism, right? But if they weren't such absolutists, there would be so much more regulations and standards introduced that would mean that right now a lot less animals would be suffering and being tortured. But because they want all or none, more animals today are suffering and being tortured. You can see the same attitude right now on the Facebook comments. Susanna, you had your hands up.
I just wanted to read a little bit more from the article. I thought it was interesting. Muslim groups repeatedly challenged the Flemish legislation before it was passed and came into force in January 2019. The French-speaking Wallonia area of southern Belgium adopted the law months later. When the Belgian laws came in, Muslims and Jewish groups feared they were being used by nationalists to whip up anti-immigrant sentiment. The head of the European Jewish Association, Rabbi Menachem Margolin, said Friday.
Menachem.
Thank you. I was like, I thought I did pretty good. Said, quote, "It was a sad day for European Jewry." And Belgium's, end quote, and Belgium's Jewish umbrella group, CCOJB, said it would take its legal fight to the European Court of Human Rights.
You know you're not doing discrimination, and you're actually just taking religious privilege away when Jewish people and Muslims are offended at the same time, right? You're doing something right. You're not discriminating. You're not signaling people out. You're just, if these groups of people that usually don't agree, if they're both upset, then you're moving in the right direction, I think. I don't know.
Well, they always agree about the food, though. That's good. It's true. The no pork. But I was gonna say, I find this guy's hyperbole really gross and disgusting. It's a sad day for Jews because they have to stun an animal before they slit its throat alive and then let it just suffer while the blood pumps out of the wound. Okay? And then people say some prayers. That's a sad day. So all the anti-Semitism, the fact that Jewish kids have to go to their Jewish schools with armed guards, the fact that, there's people being targeted on the streets, all of that's not so sad. I mean, yeah, maybe he disagrees, but come on, man, cool it with the theatrics.
Yeah. Because they're still allowed to have ritual slaughter. They just have to. You're muted.
Rivka, you're muted.
No, I'm just saying, yes, they get to do the thing that mostly counts. So
it's bid'ah, it's innovation.
Well, or come on, just say a bracha over it and be done. Move on.
All right, should we go to the next news?
Yes, sir. Okay. So,
we can't clap for this one, right?
no.
All right, next news.
Okay. Balochstan independence and women rights activist Karima Bullock found dead in Toronto, Canada. 35-year-old human rights activist Karima Bullock was reportedly found dead in Toronto, Canada on Sunday, December 20th. Karima took refuge in Canada and was a vocal critic of the atrocities committed against the people of Balochstan by the Pakistani government. She was also a women's rights activist, raising the issue of gender inequality in Pakistan at the 39th session of the Human Rights Council at the United Nations in 2018. In southwestern Pakistan, the Balochstan province has one of the longest-running insurgencies across the globe, with numerous Baloch groups engaged in an armed conflict with the Pakistani army. Other Baloch activists located abroad have also died under mysterious circumstances in the past year, including journalist Sajid Hussain, who was found dead in Sweden. So, before we get into this, I think we should highlight first that we don't know, the circumstances or motivations behind her death yet. Right? I have already seen numerous conspiracy theories put forth about the nature of her death, and we don't know yet, right? So I don't want to jump into this saying, "Oh, it was ISI, it was Pakistani intelligence, blah blah blah," because we don't know that yet. But I did want to highlight her work during this time.
Yeah, it's this. We have no idea what happened and what the motivation was, but the whole independence of the Baluch people there is a very, very hot topic issue. Like, it's a hot topic issue on the Iranian side as well. So I can't imagine if on the other side they're even more successful. It must be a very hot. Like, there's a lot of heat on this discussion, right? And these people are very, very passionate about their independence. I've seen some people trying to get me to even talk about support the independence, or because this is going to be on both sides of the border anyway, discussion. But again, this is so, I don't know. It's really scary that they managed to come all the way to Canada to if it is what we think it is. But again, I don't think we can comment much on it until we get more information, or if we get any information.
Yeah, right? It's really scary to see dissidents of various governments die under mysterious or tragic circumstances, but sometimes it is not what it appears to be at first glance, right? Like, just because they're a dissident and vocal critic of any given country and they died, that doesn't mean that it was actors from that typically authoritarian regime that did that. But it's really sad, and her work was really, really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, that's a very important point by Susanna, because we highlighted a story about an Iranian dissident in Toronto who was killed, and a lot of people were like, "This is the Islamic Republic of Iran," because he was an activist against the Islamic Republic of Iran. And when I covered it, I made sure I say, guys, we don't know if this is actually it's likely, right? Given the history that Iran had on the dissidents, like, there are many other people that the Islamic Republic of Iran has murdered outside of Iran's borders. So this would not be something out of the ordinary. Like, it is something to expect from the Iran's government. But again, just because we are against the Islamic Republic of Iran and this is possible, we shouldn't just drop our skepticism. This could be something else, and it actually ended up being something else. It was like, I don't know, some domestic issue with this other Mexican woman that he had or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but it wasn't, right? So just because a lot of times people see somebody being an activist and then they die and they just jump into conclusions, it's okay to be like highlighted as something that is possible, that we need to be like, oh, this seems like it was politically or religiously motivated, so let's highlight it, but also let's be skeptical. Okay, so just be skeptical always. Okay. ARN saying, Armin and Susanna, hey, why is Rivka missing here? ARN, Rivka is here too. You're being anti-Semitic? No, I'm just kidding. Armin, Susanna, and Rivka, go read up on how the Pakistani government has brutalized the Baluch people for the last 70 years. Yeah, I know about this, and also the Iranian government as well. But yeah, I think that it's more, yeah, but
that's actually a topic that I don't know as much about, that I would like to learn a lot more about. So if you guys have any like mini documentaries or videos that I could watch, please send it to me on Twitter. My Twitter is in the description, because I'd like to learn a lot more.
Rivka?
I was just gonna agree with you in the sense that you want to maintain skepticism. You want to look for evidence, not just, to agree with your confirmation bias or what you think happened or what you believe to have happened. Even if it's someone you disagree with that you think might be the bad actor, their due process is still, they still deserve that. And so does the victim. When you're not looking for the true justice, you're not serving the victims either. If they then become, a source of someone's political machinations or a use for their conspiracy theories. So yeah, I mean, you still want to maintain the skepticism, the, looking for evidence, making sure there's due process going on, all of that. But yes, you should definitely highlight it, saying like, this may be something to pay attention to, which is different than making presumptions about something.
All right, should we go to the next news?
Yes, and it's good news.
Next news.
14 found guilty in the 2015 Charlie Hebdo attacks trial. Yeah, Rivka's going, yeah! So, a Parisian court, obviously in France, has found 14 people guilty of involvement in a series of deadly Islamist attacks in 2015 that left 17 people dead. 11 defendants appeared in court for the verdict on Wednesday, December 16th, and the remaining 3 were tried in absentia. All 14 accomplices were found guilty of a variety of charges, from belonging to a criminal terrorist, that is coded word we use for people who do attacks, a criminal terrorist network, to direct complicity in the attacks on the Charlie Hebdo offices and a Jewish supermarket. The accomplices were accused of obtaining weapons or providing logistical support. They had denied all those charges. No, they had all denied those charges. One of the female accomplices had fled to Syria a week before the attack, and it is unknown whether or not she is still alive. So the 3 people who were tried in absentia who did not appear in court, those 3 individuals, it is because we don't know if they're alive, basically. They've fled to foreign territory. They could not be located for trial. Sources can't confirm if they're even still alive or not. That one woman I mentioned, people think she might have been taken out in an airstrike on accident. Well, maybe not on accident, but included in an airstrike. But yes, this is all very good news. For those who don't know, these are only accomplices in the attack, right? The people who actually carried out the attack were killed during the attack and during police intervention in the attack. So obviously they were not tried themselves. But yes, this is 5 years later. Trial finally happened and everyone was found guilty.
Okay, so this is good and all. Just be careful. Just because we're on one side of this discussion, don't just be critical of any method of any unfair practices. Again, the French government's court system is way superior to most of the countries that we cover here. So we know, so we know it's going to be much better. But that doesn't mean that just because it's much better that we shouldn't have high standards. Like our standards shouldn't be these countries that we cover most of the time, right? So just because it's like we consider this to be good news, that doesn't mean there's not going to be some unfair practices, some things, sometimes somebody not being able to defend themselves as they should, somebody not get unfair treatments. Like even though I don't think it's going to happen, that doesn't mean that we should just dogmatically trust that. Trust the secular government and just not have a watchful eye, right? We could be optimistic and be hopeful about the superior processes that a government like French government has, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that we should be blind to it and not pay attention, because that's how you lose these standards, right? If let people just keep trusting the governments that they like and don't pay attention to, don't act like watchdogs, then these standards might slowly go away. Okay. I do have some other opinions as well, but Rivka, Susanna, you want to add something before? No? Okay. So I do want to highlight some of the comments here. Veronica saying, throw them in prison, deport their families, raise their mosque. Okay, this is like maybe just...
Oh my gosh, what are you, a fascist?
Wow, yeah, like the first one, yeah. I mean, if they're proven guilty, yes, throw them in prison.
And they were in the court of law.
Yes, what the rest of it is like crazy. Deport their families. What did their families do? Like, this is like guilt by association or collective punishing. Raise their... What? This guy, Veronica, you scare me. And she got only likes. She got only likes. That's horrible.
Insane.
This one is saying, as long as Islam terrorizes the world, we have the right to draw cartoons. I don't agree with this. We have the right to draw cartoons even if there is no Islam terrorizing the world. Like, we always have a right to draw cartoons. What is that? What is this condition?
Wait, there are a couple comments that I want to highlight.
Okay.
ARN is saying, if the Charlie Hebdo killers should be executed, and I'm normally against the death penalty, but not in such extreme cases, then you are not against the death penalty. Also, I misspoke earlier. Technically, you could argue that they were executed because the attack was carried out on the 7th. The suspects were shot by the police while they were under siege on the 9th. Okay, so if that's what you wanted, their death, you got it. Okay, not through due process, but you got. But if there is a but, you are not against the death penalty. Oh my god.
Okay, this is such a dumb comment by ARN, because you don't understand. Like, the Enlightenment standards that we defend them specifically for situations like this, right? This is like exactly the same this is the dumb line of reasoning that people use when they say, oh, I defend freedom of speech, but, and they have an exception in this situation, then you don't defend freedom of speech. If you defend, for example, the freedom of speech of the speech that you like, then you don't even need laws that defend freedom of speech, right? You defend freedom of speech. Your defense of your values are tested when you defend the speech that you hate the most. Exactly. Your values are tested when you defend the speech that you hate the most. And now, coming back to this, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to due process, when it comes to being against the death penalty, okay? If your values are tested when it's the time for it to be applied for the people that you hate the most or the people you dislike the most. First of all, these people, what is it about them that all of a sudden makes them extreme compared to other murder? Like, because they committed murder. So if this is extreme, then you think every act of murder, because their murder is not more extreme than other acts of murder. So how is it more extreme? So every act of murder,
because it's ideologically based, because it's trying to
No,
inflict terror on people who want to exercise their free
then
expression.
every act of terror should be so you're just arguing for death penalty for every act of murder. Congratulations, you're for you're pro death penalty, right? But again, guys, free speech is only free speech if it protects the worst kind of speech. Human rights is only human rights if it protects the worst humans. If otherwise, you're saying human rights for the humans that I like, free speech for the speech that I like. So you're not for free speech and you're not for human rights. You're not on the side of enlightenment. You're anti-modernity.
I disagree. It is not dumb to want death for killers. And another terrible argument from Armin. Wanting killers to be executed is not anti-enlightenment.
It is by definition of enlightenment values. You have no idea what you're talking about.
And also, it doesn't work. It's not rationally based. Okay, there are so many different enlightenment argues against the death penalty. If it was proved to have utility that actually worked, you could go with this. But it doesn't serve its utility. It does not.
This is so. My God, ARN calls me dumb, and he has the dumbest takes. Look at this. The Charlie Hebdo killers have voluntarily given up their rights to be treated humanely. You have no idea how rights. Aaron, you have no idea how rights work. You are insane and you are so ignorant and you go around calling other people dumb. It's like, oh, so if I rob a bank, then I shouldn't have a day in court because I should give up my right? No, rights, due process, right to a hearing, having a court date, getting a lawyer to defend you, and then getting a death sentence, getting a sentence like prison sentence accordingly. These are the rights that we determine for criminals. Okay, we have decided, yes, you're a criminal, and these are your rights as a criminal. Just because you're a criminal and because you're a garbage human being, that doesn't mean your rights go out of the way. There are certain rights for people that haven't committed crimes, and we have defined what are the rights for people who have committed crimes. It doesn't mean that rights, like you don't understand how laws work. You don't understand what enlightenment values are about. You don't understand how none of this works like this. And you go around and calling other people dumb. Rivka, you want to say something?
Really quick. Aaron is saying death penalty has utility. You didn't listen to me. I said it was. It could be argued that it has utility. Data does not show that it serves its utility.
Rivka.
So I wanted to say a couple things. So I think one can agree or believe for whatever reason that killers maybe deserve death, but that's different than saying the state should put people to death. Okay? Honestly, it's true. It is different. You could feel this emotionally, but be separated from how you want that codified into law. Rights that are given to people that Armin was talking about, those are also, even before they're only criminals if they're found guilty and been charged, gone through due process and found guilty. Though a lot of those rights that are there are to make sure that people aren't charged arbitrarily, that they have the opportunity to answer the charges against them, that they are given a defense. All of this is what has made the rule of law the gold standard throughout the world. This is why we do these things, so that we can have this due process, so that we can say, yes, we've gone through all these steps and this person has we've shown through this yes, of course there's mistakes, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the process itself and why it exists. And then also, I'm not sure that anyone gives up their rights to be treated humanely, because it's not about them. It's about society makes a decision as to what they value and what they think are important. And one of the things would be not torturing people, or ensuring that everyone gets due process. Those are part of enlightenment values, because that's part of democratic rule of law. And again, I'm going to say it again. That means you're a nation of laws, not of men. A man or a woman or a person could want vengeance or want someone to die or feels maybe most of the time I didn't believe about the death penalty, but this affected me personally. So now I have maybe even a hypocritical view because I'm emotionally based, but those are human beings. The law has to be above that so that every person who's charged with a crime is treated equally before the law.
So look at this. Look how dumb these comments are. Who said anything about not having due process or a court? Wasn't this the same person that just said earlier that they have like given up their rights?
Given their rights to be treated humanely, and I think that there's parsing of words that ARN is trying to do, or some semantic stuff.
They're contradicting themselves.
No, he's contradicting himself. He said like he specifically said the Charlie Hebdo killers have voluntarily given up their rights to be treated humanely. This is how you treat people humanely, by giving them due process and a day in court. You're contradicting your own points, and you're going around and calling people dumb. This is the people that go. This is how hypocritical these people are. They are so ignorant, and they don't see their own ignorance. And then you go point fingers and call other people, say, like, "Oh, you have a dumb take." They have the dumbest takes, and they go point fingers at other people. But anyways, you want to say something?
Back to the topic at hand. So I think what Armin brought up in the beginning is really important about, like, just because this is very cathartic to a lot of people, to have these people found guilty. There's some analysis in this article that I think is very good and speaks to what Armin mentioned at the top of the segment. So this is some analysis by Hugh Schofield, who's the Paris correspondent for the BBC. These proceedings, weeks of exhaustive examination of evidence has left too many questions unanswered. All those charged were allegedly involved in networks that led up to Ahmadi Chaubali, the supermarket attacker. So for those unfamiliar, there's an attack on a Jewish supermarket and then the Charlie Hebdo offices. As well as the Charlie Hebdo offices. But what of the brothers Syed and Sharif Kochachi, the Charlie Hebdo gunmen? How did they get their weapons? What is the role of the far-right militant Claude Armont, who has been tried separately but on non-terrorist charges? Or of the 3 absentees who fled to Syria just before the attacks? And who from Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group actually ordered the attacks, if anyone? Those on trial came across as petty criminals. They either knew nothing or were well practiced in the art of obfuscation. All said, they were completely unaware of Chaubali's jihadist intentions, and the prosecution found it hard to prove otherwise. Cathartic the trial may have been, especially for those who still suffer from the memory of these events, the fact remains that not too much light has been shed. So I thought that was really good analysis.
All right.
And
should we move on? We spent so much time on this one. Should we go to the next one?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, yalla.
Next news.
Next news. Well, we shouldn't really clap.
Hey, wait. Let me do this. I didn't know that. Next news. Saudi prosecutor seeks maximum jail sentence for women's rights activists in Saudi Arabia. The state prosecutor's office in Saudi Arabia's notorious terrorism court, again, coded language, notorious terrorism court, is seeking the maximum jail sentence for women's rights activist Lujan al-Hathlul, meaning that the campaigner could face 20 years behind bars. Hathlul, 31, is one of Saudi Arabia's most famous human rights activists and is renowned for her activism, which led to securing Saudi women's right to drive and her campaigns to end the male guardianship system. The final verdict in her case is expected to be announced next week. Quote, they say she is a terrorist. In reality, she is a humanitarian, an activist, and a woman who simply wants a better, fairer word, said Al-Hathlul's sister, Lena. Correct me if I'm wrong. They arrested her for fighting for women. Well, not officially, they lie about it. but they arrested her for fighting for women to be able to drive just a few months after legalizing women driving, right? It was very close. I don't know if it was her or it was another person that was. So wait,
No,
she still
they arrested her before.
just a few months before.
Yeah,
Just
and then the
2
order
months
came,
before.
and then the order came down from above, which was sending the message. Well, people who analyze this say that it's sending the message that you can't campaign. These changes are not allowed to come from the bottom up. They're coming top down, so that essentially they can claim credit for it.
Rivka, that's not the real Matt Dalit in the live chat, by the way. Don't fall for it. It's a troll account. But okay, so
That's not the real who?
oh, Matt Dalit in the live chat.
Oh,
Trying to talk to you. It's not the real one. Yeah, it's not the real one. But okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, so the message is, don't step out of line. We'll do this in our way. Go on.
I have it exactly what you were talking about. The timeline. She was kidnapped and arrested along with several other activists in May of 2018, just before the law on women driving was changed, in what was interpreted as a message from the Saudi leadership that reform in the ultra-conservative kingdom can only come from the top down.
Yeah.
Since then, relatives have said that she has been sexually assaulted, tortured with beatings and electric shocks, held incommunicado for long periods of time. She's also attempted or undergone several hunger strikes and attempts that have also led the UN Women's Rights Committee to express alarm about her failing health.
Right. So when driving became legal in Saudi Arabia, a lot of people were celebrating it. And I was like furious of how people are falling for this sham, right? I was like, they're basically committing more human rights abuses in the background, but they were feeding media what they knew is going to attract them the most. They have a whole bunch of these. Here's a tip on how to be an effective dictator, okay? Just from the very first day, take everyone's rights away on everything, and then every time you want to commit like a major human rights violation that is about like behind the scenes, just give very close to when you're doing that, just give one of the freedoms away to people, something that is not going to challenge your authority, something that is never going to put you in any risk, right? So just take away the right to watch movies, right to wear whatever they want, right to drive, right to ride a bicycle. Just take all of that away. And then on the day that you want to, I don't know, like make every single general that has stood against you disappear, just be like, oh, women can ride bicycles now. And then if you want to like execute the princes, be like, oh, like women can drive now, women can go to sports stadiums. It's just so effective, and the media just eats it up, like, oh my god, progress, women can drive now, at the same time that every single major activist in Saudi Arabia that was fighting, like, they are now paying the price, years in prison and torture for something that they were fighting for that is legal now in Saudi Arabia. Legal now in Saudi Arabia. Like, this is what they wanted, and you're still punishing them for something that you legalized because they didn't do it on your terms. They're like, you shut the hell up. You don't get to be a human rights activist. We give you what we give you when we think the time is right. This is why Saudi Arabia and Iran's government and Saudi Arabia's government should never be congratulated for any of these, okay? Any of these. Iran's government is trying to pull the same trick, right? They every time they feel under pressure, they're like, which one of these things we could give away? And usually the most meaningless, symbolic ones. But go on, Rivka.
Well, I mean, the illusion of reform is just such a sham. Right. And Trails is saying, especially woke American media, LOL, they deep throat that crap. Right. I wanted to give a little bit more context. So we covered this last week, or no, maybe 2 weeks ago. She has been moved from a not regular court. She's being tried as a terrorist. She's being tried under charges of, where did it go? Destabilizing national security and working with foreign entities, one of which was the UN.
But the foreign entities thing is always if you ever notice, also, similar to what Armin was saying about Iran, that's always seems to be the charge, that somehow you're spying, or you're working with foreign governments, or you're conspiring with foreign governments, because it's, also real easy to say, well, we can't tell you exactly what it is because it's a matter of national security. Those are just always the charge. But I wanted to say what you were saying about, charging her, even though these things are now legal. It definitely sends a message that you can't advocate for yourself. You cannot, as a citizen, demand anything. All demands have to be silent. The only demands that can be made are by the government upon you as a citizen. A citizen can't demand anything of the government. The government dictates what they will and will not allow you to do. And that's a demand they are making on you, to be silent. It doesn't work the other way.
It's a little bit different between Iran and Saudi. I think Iran's favorite go-to allegation when they don't have anything is spying, and Saudi Arabian is usually like stability or something like that. But yeah, I can't wait for the Saudi government to topple one day. Guys, green energy, please, all the way. Okay, this is why I'm telling you that green energy, like alternative sources of energy, is a security issue, not just like a clean air issue. Okay, both Iran's government and Saudi's government will topple if oil prices keep plummeting and plummet even more. Okay, so this is like really will remove a lot of source of misery, not just of Saudi Arabia and Iran itself, will free the people from Saudi Arabia and Iran, but these countries are the main exporters, are some of the worst ideas on the planet that cause a lot of harm and misery across the world. So the faster they lose their funding from oil coming out of the ground, the sooner it's going to be better. We're going to get to a better world.
Bring it on the nuclear. I am
the
ready.
The only thing that bothers me about those scenarios is often governments or entities that are propped up on one specific thing have just this inability, because of their own confirmation bias, or what Buckminster Fuller called the 40-year horizon, to look beyond their own lifetime to plan for anything. So when the shit does hit the fan, it becomes really bad for the average people sometimes, in that period where things are trying to right themselves into another type of government, or another economy, or another way of financing the country. So that's the thing that scares me, is that in between period when things are sort of out of sorts, between when things fall and when they come back around in a different manifestation, because people really do have an inability oftentimes to think about what happens after their own specific lifetime, or their own form of government, or what could happen in the future, always seeing themselves as on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, there's one last quote I wanted to read from this article. And so, yeah, the verdict is supposed to come out next week. So we should be hearing soon if she's going to be imprisoned for 20 years for something that the Saudi regime is now using as one of their biggest pieces of reformist marketing. Quote, a regime that sees women's activism as terrorism is deeply broken. There is no moral or legal case for activists' continued imprisonment, and their prolonged incarceration is not even in the narrow interests of the Saudi regime, said Lucy Ray, a spokesperson for the human rights advocacy body Grant Liberty, which campaigns on behalf of Saudi prisoners of conscience. Quote, Saudi Arabia will never rehabilitate its reputation while it continues to imprison and torture those who campaign for basic freedoms, end quote.
We should explain every segment why we say terrorist instead of the word, because we chop these into pieces. So we can't say the actual word because YouTube and Twitch might be sensitive. So that's why they deprioritize the videos who use these keywords. That's why we don't say them.
Yeah, so to people watching live, you're going to have to hear it a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, not
So,
sorry.
And tell your friends so they know.
yeah. We should
love
have like
Rivka
a.
so much.
We should have like a. I don't know, like put something over here that just has all the code words. Like just doing.
We've been saying that we're gonna write our lexicon
But like a
down.
key, like
Yeah,
a
a
lexicon.
legend.
Yeah.
Check the
Yeah.
description for a legend.
All right, should we go to the next news?
Yes, next news, and it is not good news.
Okay, next news.
Okay. Next news. Indian Muslim teenager jailed for getting pizza with Dalit teen girl. Rivka, Armin, take a guess at what part of India this happened in.
UP, Uttar Pradesh.
Is it Uttar Pradesh?
Oh my god, yes it is.
Kel Surprise.
I shouldn't be laughing because the state of affairs in Uttar Pradesh is horrific. But
You think
that
they
is
weren't
how-
laughing in the Warsaw Ghetto? Of course they were. They were making jokes. Come on, that's how you take down the oppressors. You make fun of them.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're here. But UP, get your crap together if it is this predictable that the most horrific crap in India always comes out of your area. Okay, let me continue. In mid-December, Sonu, 18-year-old Muslim boy, and a 16-year-old former classmate, a Dalit girl, were on a harmless outing to get pizza and go for a walk. By the end of the excursion, they were both in jail for the alleged attempt to deceive her into converting to Islam under the false premise of love. The two teenagers' case is among the latest controversial enforcements of the month-old quote-unquote anti-love jihad ordinance in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Quote-unquote love jihad is a conspiracy theory promulgated by far-right Hindu groups, aka Hindutva, which accuses Muslim men of perpetuating demographic change in India via converting Hindu women with deceitful marriages. The police report filed against Sonu was purportedly filed by the girl's father, although he has claimed that the police dictated the complaint to him. Her father also denies the allegations of intended elopement, and the girl claims that Sonu had never discussed conversion, let alone marriage, with her.
This is why.
Just getting some za, man.
Yeah.
It's all casual.
It is casual.
This is why India is one of the most racist countries on the planet. It's the most racist country on the planet.
Empirically,
yes. I mean, imagine this if this was news in any other country. Like if this was like, let's say, I don't know, like this would be on the headline news, like globally, and people would be using it as a way to embarrass like United States or Canada or United Kingdom. We're like, oh my God, look how backwards they are. But it doesn't get global attention when it happens in a country like India, because it's just like, oh yeah, this is bigotry of lower expectations, right? Muslim teen meets the other girl for pizza. By the way, this is, I was thinking, why are you saying the other girl? This is a woman. This is the mother.
This is the mother of the boy who's in jail for getting pizza with a girl. That's
imagine like, guys, imagine if this was like American, right? Black teen meets white girl for pizza outing, lands in jail under anti-mixed racing law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If this was the news today in 2020, imagine that. Imagine a black boy in the United States got pizza with a white girl, and now you go to jail because there's a new law in this town that race mixing is illegal. This is what's happening in the second most populated country on the planet, in one of their most populated provinces. This is the law of the
most
land.
populated province.
The most populated
province that has the highest populations of Muslims in India.
Again, if this happened to just one, if this was happened to one person in the United States or United Kingdom or Canada, this would be an outrage globally. But it happens to so many people in India. And yeah, it's just India. Like how many? This is why people who here were like here before, like Joseph, that they need to go get fucked, because these laws in other countries are affecting way astronomically much higher people than the things they care about in their own backyard. Like if you are a true humanist, what's happening, the anti-secularism that is happening, this whole creeping Hinduism in India, the rise of the far right in India, right? This would be on the priority list of every humanist. India and what's happening in India and China would be everyone's priority, because there's like on the scale of human rights violations that is happening in these two countries is there. You don't see it. Maybe Yemen. Okay, fine. China, India, and Yemen. Right? As a human rights as somebody that cares about human rights, these should be your highest priorities. Like North Korea.
We said at the same jinx.
We said at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. Like, it drives me crazy. I do not understand how more people are not talking about the fact that the world's largest quote unquote supposedly nominally secular democracy is essentially enforcing miscegenation laws. Okay, so for those unfamiliar, this law was passed, solidified, brought into law in Uttar Pradesh about a month ago. There is propositions for matching laws currently being proposed in the legislation of 4 other states in India. Okay, so this is catching on. This is gaining ground. Okay, like Armin said, it would be insane if this happened in America today. Like, it would be a global conversation that is being had. I do not understand how this is not being taken seriously across the world. Like, this
makes me angry, because it makes me feel like several things. Like, one, people are saying, well, that's just how they are. They don't really count. They have backwards rules. They're savages, etc. And I think that in and of itself is really bigoted. And this idea that somehow the rights that I might enjoy are, okay for me, but, whatever happens to anybody else, it doesn't matter. Or they don't deserve them, or they're not smart enough, or they're, too childlike, or whatever it is to deserve these things. But I also just find it strange that people don't seem to care about what happens to other people. Now, everybody has, on a grand scale, like everybody has their own issues that they talk about more than others, but it seems to me that a rising tides lift all boats, even if it's across the continent. And you know this from your own family. When things are going well, even in your extended family, it has reverberations back on you, because you're not suffering the consequences of the bad things that are happening. And so even if you are selfishly motivated, utilitarian wise, if people around you and your neighbors and the people involved on a world scale even are not suffering, then consequently that's going to reverberate back into, to some degree, a benefit to you.
A couple other things I wanted to mention. Prakash is saying, now another large state of India, Madhya Pradesh, has passed the same law. You will now hear cases from MP2. I need to go verify myself that it's been passed in Madhya Pradesh. I know we covered when it was introduced into on the floor of state legislature a couple weeks ago, but I need to go verify if it has in fact passed. If so, even more evidence that we have a massive problem. But I want to highlight a comment by, where did it go?
Can I do mine first?
Wait, really quick. This is really quick. Wait, Born Star is saying India is a cool country. Y'all need to stop hating on India for things like this. God. Other countries are worse. Born Star, what about this? We literally said within this segment that the situation in other countries are worse. One, first of all. Two, this is not hating on India. This is for the fucking love of the people in India.
Yeah.
This is actually liking India of Indian citizens, okay? Like, get your head out of your ass.
Born Star, maybe you should
stop. Accountable doesn't mean that you hate them. It means that you respect them. When you can't hear any offense, it's because you don't respect them enough or think that they're equal or smart enough or worth enough to be able to listen to a criticism or a concern.
It's because I
respect and love that people say things.
It is because I have love for the people in your country that I'm concerned about laws and ordinances that are in violation of your own fucking constitution.
Okay. Okay, I think Susanna said everything. I responded enough to that one. That was good. Aryan is saying, how is it racism when Muslims in India are in another race? I think it would be more appropriate to call it xenophobia. Aryan, I think you should learn how to listen a little bit more, because I wasn't talking about the Muslims. This is about the caste system in India, and the caste system in India is based on heredity, so it is racism. I wasn't talking. We are not talking about Muslims and Hindus. Maybe pay attention to the headline. It's about the Dalit. They're a different caste.
Also, imply that Muslims are xenophobic usually, or it literally means a fear of strangers. It usually refers to a fear or distaste or hatred towards immigrants. You are actually being hateful yourself, because you're implying that Indian Muslims are not actually Indians.
Well, actually, we can simplify the whole thing. It's just bigotry. It's discrimination. It's prejudice.
But it's also racism. It's based on it's based on heredity. Katie saying Uttar Pradesh has 44 million Muslims, which is almost the same population as Argentina. Jeez, are you serious? Just the Muslims in Uttar Pradesh is 44. Wow, I want to. Okay, that is crazy high. There were some other comments I wanted to highlight here. I think there was some good ARN comments, because we kind of like, oh yeah, there we go. It's pure, and we agree with ARN here on this news, so that's good. So I was saying this is just beyond stupid. So now meeting for pizza is illegal. Well, not I mean, if you are a different faith, yes.
A few more comments about this case.
Okay.
So it's not explicitly that it's just about meeting for pizza. It's not that meeting for pizza is illegal. Like, let's be clear. The police said that Sonu is 18 years old, but his family claims that he is a minor. The apart from the illegal conversion law, meaning that this anti-conversion law is illegal. It is in violation of the Indian Constitution, but that needs to be challenged and taken to court. Anyways, besides that, police have booked Sonu on charges of abduction and under sections of the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act and Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses Act. So they're also basically trying him for kidnapping. Even though,
no way,
as of what has been presented to me, as of my research so far, I do not see evidence for that.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be some skepticism associated with all of this news, right? But again, imagine if oh my God, imagine if every time a black teen met with a white girl in the United States, they get accused of kidnapping. That would be oh God, this is so bad. All right, anyway.
So Uttar Pradesh is basically like 1943, like Deep South.
Yeah.
No, like 1920. Like
yeah, soon it's going to look like 1940 Berlin. if we keep going like this. Anyways, hold on. Let me see. Katie usually has some really good comments. Indian Constitution was inspired from the French and American revolutions and British Constitution. You bet this is unconstitutional. However, Hindutva hates the Constitution. Yeah, but guys, a lot of people also from India, every time we point out to laws, like insane laws like this, especially from provinces like Uttar Pradesh, they keep saying, oh, this is not an issue because it's unconstitutional. You know, even in a country like United States, when there's a law that is unconstitutional, you know what big of a headache it is to actually move it all the way to Supreme Court and eventually shut it down. And you know how many people are going to be, their lives are going to be destroyed in the meantime until you manage to finally challenge it in the Supreme Court. Just because something is against the Constitution doesn't mean it's not like a program that automatically deletes the law just because it's unconstitutional. It doesn't work like that. It does a lot of damage even if it is unconstitutional. Anyways, should we go to the next news?
Yes, and it's good news.
Oh, finally. God damn it.
Children, did you like me getting angry? I know that people are not used to seeing me angry.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It was hot.
Next news.
Next news. Secular values voters are becoming an electoral force in the United States. Yeah, Rivka, yeah. In the United States. The voting patterns of religious communities in the 2020 U.S. election have been vigorously studied for evidence of shifting allegiances among believers. Less attention has been paid to the non-religious, one of the largest growing demographics among the U.S. electorate. This sector of American voters has shifted from roughly 5% to over 23% in the past 50 years. According to data analysis by Eastern Illinois University professor Ryan Burge, around 80% of those self-identified atheists/agnostics voted for Biden, as well as 70% of those who described their religion as, quote-unquote, nothing in particular. He argues, quote, it's completely fair to say these shifts generated a 2 percentage point swing for Biden nationwide. There were 5 states where the gap between the candidates was less than 2 percentage points. Those states being Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. 4 of those 5 went for Biden, and the nones were between, meaning none, their religion is nothing or none, and the nones were between 28% and 37% of the population in those key states.
Okay, how can we use this to our advantage? How could we get more political and get these people to become like a voting bloc, and we get these politicians to actually, like recognize us as a force that they need to appeal to? Rivka.
There are people that are forming voting blocs. There's Democratic, Secular Coalition for America and Americans United for Church and State, a separation of church and state. Those are secular groups. And then within those, there were secular Democrats group that did a lot of work on this particular last presidential election. Then there's also the Freedom Caucus, which Jeremy Free Thought, sorry, I got confused. Free Thought Caucus, thank you. That Jeremy Raskin and others are a part of. These are Congress members that are part of a caucus of free thinkers or secularists. Some of them are out atheists, some of them are not, but there's that has actually gotten larger, and that actually is part of what happened in this resolution that just occurred within the House and the Senate against blasphemy and apostasy. A lot of that came out of a lot of these Congress members that were part of the Free Thought Caucus. And that had actually been, attempted several times. This is just the time it's finally been successful. So yeah, it is starting to be, and they've been, but often, we see it within our own organization that there's a reticence sometimes for people to feel like they either want to get involved in politics with secularism or non-belief as quote unquote the identity or the focus of whatever that activism group is. But I think we're starting to see it more because of the rise of the nuns, as they say, the non-religious people, and then also the overstepping by a lot of the theocratic actors within the country as well. And that is sometimes a catalyst for making people kind of push back. And then also when you see people like the senator who sponsored the legislation against blasphemy, despite being a religious individual, is supporting a secular resolution, I think that is also a really good message to non-believers and also to believers, especially because secularism is the best protection believers have. And I think that might be a way also to kind of make the coalition larger, is if you can find as many believers willing to join a secular coalition, knowing that it's a protection for them as well.
Okay, so I want to highlight this and congratulate Joseph for the dumbest takes today. For the highest number of dumb takes in one news day goes to Joseph. Okay, this became news because as we showed you, they were like analyze the results of the 2020 electoral. The statistics and stuff, and they came up with new information. This is new information that is based on 2020 results. So that's why all of this is now new information. He's asking, how is this news? It's a trend. This is a trend that's been happening over the last 20 years. Yes, but now we have new information based on the last presidential election in the United States. This is new information, and it's very interesting. Okay, and it was right there on the screen. And Susanna also read it out loud. Maybe pay more attention before you keep making yourself look like an idiot. But come on, like Joseph, like nobody has had this record so far in one live stream.
I don't know. Lauren last week had some pretty heavy hitters.
Oof. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there was another quote from this article that I thought was good. It's called, the heading of this section is called "The New Values Voters." For years, both scholars and pundits have referred to the political impact of quote-unquote values voters in America. What that designation generally refers to are religious men and women whose scripturally based values coagulate around issues such as opposing marriage equality and women's reproductive autonomy. And then they point out that calling religious voters value voters is really a misnomer. It's semantically doesn't make sense because it applies those who are maybe less religious or non-religious, do not have values. And in fact, it also implies that they do not have values that motivate and are demonstrated through their voting behavior. So it goes on to talk about several things in which the voting values of non-religious people are demonstrated in. So, for example, non-religious people place a high value on sex education. Their non-religious values greatly inform their decisions on voting around drugs policy, on science at the ballot box, such as publicly supporting stem cell research. Okay. Yeah. And then there's another section that I thought was interesting called values versus values. On issues that the religious right has held some sway over in recent years, there's evidence of a counterbalance among secular values voters. For example, while the religious have been more likely to oppose same-sex marriage, secular Americans are more likely.
Same thing.
Okay. Are more likely to support it. and by significant margins. A recent Pew study found that 79% of secular Americans are supportive of marriage equality, same-sex marriage, compared to 66% of white mainline Protestants, 61% of Catholics, 44% of Black Protestants, and 29% of white evangelicals. There are many additional values that are prominent among secular Americans. For example, the U.S. Secular Survey of 2020, which is the largest survey of non-religious Americans ever conducted, with almost nearly 34,000 participants, found strong support for safeguarding the separation of church and state. Other studies have found that secular Americans strongly support reproductive rights, women working paid labor and women working in the paid labor force, the DACA program, aka like the Dreamer program, death with dignity, and opposition to the death penalty. Rivka, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say that secular survey, I participated in that secular survey, and I would encourage others when they do another one to participate in it as well, because it's a way to gauge what is important to non-religious or to secular voters. And that's also part of why this is news, because this is a new survey with a large amount of people to participate. And it brought up some issues that maybe hadn't been brought up before as things that they might have thought were important, or things shifted positions as to what they thought was important as well. And these are all important as also simply part of the historical record. So when you're looking back and studying how trends came about, or how things changed, or when was the moment when there was a shift, that's why all these things are news. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see sometimes why it's as important. But if we didn't have this kind of information about previous eras, we wouldn't be able to talk about the things that happened with such clarity and understanding, you know? And so because we're the ones participating, it doesn't give it any less value, because 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, this information will be very valuable to people when they're analyzing how someone got from A to B, or where the trend shifted, or where the rise or fall and these kind of things happen. So again, this is just more of this discussion about being able to see beyond your own 40-year horizon and see why it's important in the big picture.
Wait,
yay,
really
doorknob head.
Terrell's is saying that I'm the queen of sexy secular Americans. I appreciate that, but I'm the empress.
Yeah, we have Queen Fabi is the queen. You're the empress.
But she's not an American.
Oh yeah, all right.
So I guess I can be the queen.
We don't have queens in the United States, so you're gonna have to pick something else.
I'm establishing a monarchy of sexy secular Americans.
I like how Rivka's, enlightenment values just got triggered. Like, we don't have queens here in the United States. Okay, get your monarchy away from our
Put
country.
everyone claro, okay?
Like, get that shit out of here.
Oh my gosh.
We need to have more people being triggered by this is good. See, this is the kind of defense of enlightenment values we need, okay? Fuck the monarchy. All right. So should we
Even Susanna's sexy monarchy.
All right.
Okay. Next news.
Wait, you have to unhighlight. Okay, I'm just gonna highlight and unhighlight a comment because. All right, can we clap? Yeah, I guess we clap. We'll see. I don't know. I'm actually skeptical about this news. We'll see. Next news. Saudi
Arabia is scrubbing hate speech from its school books. In Saudi Arabia, students in Saudi Arabia are witnessing a major shift in the kingdom's official nationwide curriculum, with new reforms stripping out hatred towards Christian, Jews, and gays, as well as assertions to defend Islam through violence. According to a report released by Jerusalem-based think tank, the Institute for Monitoring Peace and Cultural Tolerance in School Education, a nonprofit that analyzes global curricula for extremist and intolerant views, the kingdom's most recent textbooks have removed for the first time sections calling for apostates to be executed. The books used in the public K-12 curriculum still characterizes Jews and Christians as, quote, enemies of Islam, and says that infidels, quote, do not have any good deeds and will spend an eternity in hell, according to the report. So Time magazine published this piece, and the rest of their headline that they put on this reads, well, the full headline is Saudi Arabia is scrubbing hate speech from school books and why that's a win for the Trump administration. So that's another angle of this article. However, when I decided to write this news, I'm just focusing on what was removed from the textbooks. But yeah, there's a lot going on here.
What's the argument for why this is a win for Trump? Is it because like them getting closer with Israel and trying to bring more working?
Well,
yeah.
They're saying that this is proof that Saudi Arabia is, kind of turning a corner on extremism, and that they're becoming more tolerant, and also they're counting Iran. The Trump administration is using the Iranian angle too by saying, we've privately engaged with them on human rights, and we want, MBS is trying to modernize, and we want to support him, and we want to counter Iran and their terrible record on human rights. So Saudi Arabia, our friend or frenemy, if we can get them to be more tolerant, then that sort of pokes Iran in the chest, so to speak. That's part of what the discourse is. And, they want to give MBS the space to continue to make the reforms. But at no point, and I think, those are the areas where you could say, yeah, okay, good. You want to make reforms. So how about the activists in jail? For things that you've now made legal, they're not talking about that. It seems like it's very centrally focused on specific talking points. Everyone's on message.
So here's the argument for why this is a win for the Trump administration. Trump administration officials say the changes are proof of that Saudi Arabia is turning a corner on extremism, thanks in part to their quiet lobbying to put textbook reform near the top of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 plan to modernize the kingdom. A former senior State Department official says President Donald Trump helped facilitate MBS's reform drive by paying attention to, paying attention to the kingdom's fears of Iran's regional ambitions. Quote, by countering Iran and engaging privately with them on human rights issues, we have expanded the space for MBS to modernize the kingdom and to continue the reforms that he has wanted to make the former official states. The State Department official tells Times that the Trump administration is encouraged by the report that finds positive changes in influential textbooks used throughout Saudi Arabia, adding that the administration supports textbooks free of intolerance and violence and is also backing the development of a Saudi teacher training program. And they spoke on the condition of anonymity.
No, wait, my turn. My turn. Rivka, you're muted, but okay. Okay.
I just want to say one more thing, though, just to talk about these reforms. So, yes, they've changed some things, but like in the article too, they mentioned this. Like David Weinberg from the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, says some of the really intolerant parts are gone. Right, like so, no more death penalty for adultery, acts of homosexuality, or perceived acts of magic, but according to him, there's still problematic passages, including references to Jews who commit wrongdoing turned into real monkeys, encouraging enmity and demonization toward infidels, polytheists, and which is a blanket term used for Jews, Christians, Shiites, Muslims, and other non-believers. And so Weinberg is saying, okay, they're not there yet. So, that's his spacing. Yeah, they've taken some very egregious things out, but they've also left some egregious things. The very egregious may be gone, but the egregious themselves are still there. So sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, this is a bit tricky. Okay, first of all, I was willing to say that maybe Trump deserves some kudos for this, but then Susanna mentioned that they see this as a part of the Vision 2030 plan, and this is basically if that is what they mean by them deserving some credit for this, then they deserve no credit, because that whole thing is just it's a show. It's like it's a PR front for a country, for a government that just needs to collapse yesterday. And the more reform, again, we in the Middle East, we're very used to this, especially like in a country like Iran, where reform is used as an excuse for continuing to deny people, their rights and prosperity and their safety. Okay. So it's basically a way to keep having this hope for people that, things are bad, but things could get a little bit better if I just wait, and then it never comes, right? So, we shouldn't let them use this as a trick. As I was willing to maybe think that this might be something that we could give Trump credit for if the narrative was that if what actually had happened, not just the narrative, what actually had happened is that they were forced into a position like this. Like this was like they made a deal, like part of the things that we want you, like we're moving forward, we're normalizing ties in the Middle East. You need to get closer to Israel. And part of the requirements moving forward is for you to do this, this, and this, and this. And if this was part of something that a country like the United States has pressured Saudi Arabia into, rather than something that Saudi Arabia was using as a way to do PR, then I would be like, this kind of like pushing somebody in the corner and then getting them to submit to superior values rather than them trying to signal to con people around them. I would, that would be something that would be like, okay, great. This is good. This is something that I could congratulate the Trump administration for a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's like that. But how do you, as individuals, you might be confused about how to feel about this, because this is good news for some, it's still good news, but it shouldn't make you give credit to people who don't deserve credit, right? The example, because for example, when women are able to drive in Saudi Arabia, we say you shouldn't congratulate Saudi Arabia for that, especially because they're doing a lot of horrible things in the back, behind the scenes, and they're using this as a cover. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to be happy for the women who are able to drive, right? These are not mutually exclusive positions. You could be like, guys, do not congratulate MBS. Do not be do not lose focus on what's actually happening behind the scenes and what this is being used for. But it's okay for women who weren't able to drive and now are able to drive. You could at the same time feel happy for them. So in this situation, it's a good thing that there's a little bit of a less brainwashing, a little bit of less hate that these kids are exposed to. That's a good thing, okay? But just don't give credit to Saudi Arabia for it. And also understand what the main goal behind these things are. The example I use is like, imagine if you're being tortured, like you're being tortured by somebody and he never gives you water. And today he's going to continue the torture, but you just ask for water and he just gives you one sip of water, right? Do you be like, oh my God, my torturer is awesome, like when it's congratulating? No, but am I happy that you got some water? Yes, but that doesn't mean this is an evil person and is doing evil thing to them. This is an evil government that is doing evil shit to these people. You don't congratulate them for being dragged, kicking and screaming to where other countries have already reached hundreds of years ago. Susanna, I think that, okay, Susanna, Rivka, you go, Susanna, go, and then after that, Rivka.
Rivka first. You're muted.
Okay, so I just wanted to also just bring up a little things that this article also mentions an independent researcher who's done his own. He claims to have done his own study to see if some of these things have actually been removed. His name is Ali Al Ahmed, and he's from the Gulf Studies Institute in DC. And he says that he's done his independent research to see, have these things truly been removed? And he says that yes, they have. You know, Jews, the reference to Armageddon, Jews being annihilated, a chapter about jihad. And then he himself says that the Trump administration made it easier because they have a strong relationship. That's his quote. That's where he's giving the credit. But he and others also say that just because they might be removing references, it's not necessarily enough, because you can not talk about jihad, but if you don't say anything, then it leaves it open for others to interpret it a certain way. So his saying is, you need to talk about it in, quote, the right way. This is his opinion. So what the right way means, what does that mean? That seems ambiguous. And who determines what the right way is? So that in and of itself is kind of strange. And he said that also, there's still a lot of hateful material about other faiths. So you have to be proactive before somebody else. So you're not talking about it at school, but they might hear about it at the mosque, and how they view other faiths, And then again, they point out, the Dr. Hassan Farhan Malki is still jailed and facing a possible death sentence for confessing to the crime of calling for freedom of belief in Saudi Arabia. So all of this is still happening while they're supposedly becoming more tolerant, but yet someone may be put to death for calling for decriminalizing freedom of belief. So this is exactly analogous in a lot of ways to the discussion about Lujan, because they are saying, here's what we deem citizens can have. Citizens have no right to demand anything for themselves.
I think this is also important to highlight. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia makes these materials free for basically all other states. So these textbooks are promulgated and distributed throughout the entire Arab world. So these changes are actually much farther reaching than just the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia itself. They are distributed widely throughout the entire Sunni Muslim world and potentially reaching millions of students every year. So this dissemination, these changes to these textbooks are important, and they are further reaching than Saudi Arabia itself. However, I would like to hear Armin's analysis on how Saudi's regional fears regarding Iran may have motivated some of this.
Yeah, no, well, they're desperate. They are, especially because they know that United States is going to have, it seems like it, like things can change, but it seems like United States under, United States under Biden is going to try to become less focused on the Middle East and have a hands-off approach. Things might change, but this is what they're signaling, and to have more of a focus on China, right? So, and Saudi Arabia is terrified because Saudi Arabia knows, and this is why they're desperate to accept, getting even closer to Israel, even faster than they signaled before, and to connect, to have more ties with as many countries as possible. Because if they're not going to be able to rely on the support of the United States, they need all the allies that they could get. And I think whatever they need to signal to the world that they are not the barbarians that everybody thinks they are, they'll try to. But the thing is that they can't. The House of Saud, unlike the House of Wahhab, they don't really care much about religion, right? If they could signal all the way that, fuck Islam, if they would say it, if it means that they would save them from the falling oil prices and Iran creeping all over the Middle East, and Iran doing empire building beyond its borders, and being able to cause so much damage to Saudi Arabia's economy with very little budget. Saudi Arabia is terrified, and the only reason why they don't go out full on, say like, just we do whatever you want, right? Like, what do you want? You want naked women dancing in the streets? Here, just accept us, please. The only reason why they can't do that is because they also have their own internal Wahhabi issue to deal with. So this is the dance that they have to dance. So like, how much do we appeal to the foreigners without having a Wahhabi uprising, right in Saudi Arabia? And how much do we appeal to the Wahhabis while at the same time signaling to the world, like, please, please, please save us from this Iranians. We're scared. They're going to eat us alive. If you leave us alone here, they're going to eat us alive. Help us. Yes. Right. So it's a tough dance, but I feel a zero.
The Iranians are banging on our back door.
But I feel zero sympathy. I hope they fail and the whole thing falls apart. Yes. Okay, cool. Should we go to the last news?
Last news, and we need like 50 claps for this.
I just do 3 really hard ones.
Okay.
Next news.
No, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. I'm so excited about this. Okay. Last news. Nigerian court says that atheist activist Mubarak Bala must be released. In Nigeria, a Nigerian judge at the High Court of Abuja recently ruled on December 21st that Mubarak Bala, the atheist activist and president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria, is to be immediately released from custody in Kano State, where he has been held since April 2020. The judge declared that Bala's continuous incarceration was illegal and ordered his immediate release. This followed from a fundamental rights petition that detailed how Bala had been detained without charge for more than 7 months, 5 months of which he was actively denied access to legal representatives, which is illegal according to the Nigerian constitution. Mubarak Bala was originally arrested on April 28th in connection with a Facebook post that allegedly blasphemed against the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay. That is good news, but it's sad that this is our good news, that somebody that just got into prison for just posting a Facebook, for just having a Facebook post that allegedly was against Prophet Muhammad, had to go through so much, and you had to, like, this is the good news that we get. Like, the fact that this is even news is a tragedy, right? The fact that this is what we have to go through oh my God. But also another thing that is, let me actually be pessimistic. You know how many, like the first news, you see the hundreds of comments that we got, and all the engagements, hundreds of engagements, hundreds of comments.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we post this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
18 comments and 2 shares, 0 comments, right? Do you see the first ones that we posted?
Yeah, when it was just about some pastor crying.
Yeah, hold on.
Which is literally so inconsequential.
Yeah, look at this. Okay, so this is what. Yeah,
this is this is amongst, I think, what in the top 10 most populous countries in the world. I could be wrong. Right. This speaks to the dissolution of secularism in an African nation.
Look at this.
Yeah.
This was 2,000 reactions, 338 comments, and 112 shares. This one. This is when we feed you the vegetables, right? Guys, and look at this. This doesn't help us in any way, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is hurting our page because it brings down the engagement on the entire page. But the reason why we want to have high engagement on our page is so that we could eventually use the high engagement to feed you the vegetables that you don't want to eat, right? We give you the candy to get engagement, and then we post this even though there's very little demand for it. even though it doesn't, like, it basically destroys the engagement on the entire, because every post that you have on your Facebook page, if it has low engagement, then Facebook recognizes your entire page as low engaging content posting page, right? But we have to post this, because what's the point of having high engagement if we can't bring you stuff like this? But you guys are not reacting to it because you don't, guys, so a lot of you don't give a crap.
You don't like broccoli?
No, I love my vegetables. I just know most people are not like that, right? Yeah, but actually, Darko has a good point. Isn't the judge? Is there any? No, right? This is not Pakistan, so I don't think they need some. I don't think you need as much. Do you, like, Susanna? You know, do you need balls of steels?
I think it depends heavily on the area of Nigeria. So obviously there are areas of Nigeria where you have to deal with, Islamist insurgencies like Boko Haram, one thing that ARN said that, I can't find the comment. I'm worried that Islamists will try to kill Bala. So this actually is a concern of mine. So I don't know as much about the threat to the judge. I do worry about Bala's security once he is released. So it
is a threat, but not Pakistan level threat.
I would agree with that assessment. Here's the deal. So he was moved to Kano State, which is a state which basically has at least two legal systems, where if you are from a Muslim background, you can be tried in Sharia courts. He was originally in a different state. I cannot remember the name of that state off the top of my head, but he was in a southern state. And then once the police came after him and he was held incommunicado, they moved him to Kano, where he could be tried under Sharia law. This is a particular concern because Mubarak Bala is an ex-Muslim. And they basically, if you're from that background, you can be tried in those courts. So I would hope as soon as he is released, he goes to a more southern state, which is more Christian, and hopefully the threat to his safety will be a lot less. Because when he was arrested, there were policemen in Nigeria and state authorities who were openly saying on social media that if the state didn't do anything about it, they would take him out himself. Okay, so there are law enforcement officials threatening his safety themselves. So I think securing his safety going forward once he is released is imperative. Rivka?
So this actually kind of circles back around to some of the discussion we were having about the resolution on blasphemy and apostasy, and like, why is it important, or why should we care if we're, it's not our country, or it's not going to have an effect. I think that it does, because in countries where you have blasphemy laws, you have extrajudicial violence because people feel empowered to take this into their own hands, so that they can decide for themselves, well, I perceived it as blasphemy, or the scripture said, or they feel empowered through their dogmatic beliefs to engage in mob violence or extrajudicial violence. And that extrajudicial violence spills over into how safe that country would be, say, for business, for travelers from another country, for engagement on a world scale, for partnering with them. All these things play a role, and that's why it is important to be concerned about blasphemy, apostasy, heresy laws in other countries, even beyond caring about people and human rights and humanity and humanism. As I keep bringing back, these have utilitarian reasons as well. Because if you have a situation that encourages sort of a mob mentality and a laissez-faire or de facto set of justice principles, being that, it's okay for people to kill other people who have blasphemed or who have, left the religion or, something like that, then that type of mindset's going to spill out into everything. So you're going to have a unsecure situation for commerce, for engagement, for travel, for all kinds of pursuits, which another country or a citizen might find helpful. And it also makes me angry because I feel like personally, on a personal level, this kind of stuff prevents me from being able to engage with people all over the world in a way that meaningful way. And that in and of itself is a selfish concern, but I want to be able to do that. And it's preventing me from doing it.
All right, guys, we already went over 2 hours, so let's just cut it here. But this was good. Thank you, Susanna, for Rivka, thank you for your awesome comments as usual. And Susanna, thank you for collecting the news and summarizing it and making sure that we end on a good note. That's very nice of you. And thank you for always being so on top of all this human rights stuff and looking, like, constantly checking to see what the update is. You are so passionate about this, and it's good. This is what we need in AR a lot. Anyway, so let's end this here, and thank you guys for hanging out with us here. Thank you to the people who I constantly insulted for their moronic takes, and yet they stayed. You guys, even if I disagree with you, you guys have thick skins. I appreciate that. I always admire that. Right? So great. So continue being here, and we keep fighting next week, maybe. All right, guys. Thank you for
really quick.
Right.
If you are financially able, you can support us on Patreon. And one thing you get with your Patreon support is you get exclusive access to the sexiest blasphemous art that I have ever seen produced on this planet. In fact, one reason why you should come be a Patreon for as little as $1 per month is that within the next hour, Armin and I are dropping the latest draft of Mother Mary, Goddess Kali, and Aisha as an adult making out.
Threesome.
It's
Beautiful.
tasty, okay?
Yes.
So within the next hour,
do not support us financially. Do not become a patron. Do not become a YouTube member if you're struggling financially. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Take care of yourself first. Okay? So yeah, you could, if you want to help us and you're like, but I'm broke, but maybe I should help. No, don't help us financially. If you're struggling, you could just like the video, you could just share the video, you could subscribe and hit the bell button. That is a lot of help to us. That really helps us.
Tell your rich friends about us. You could do that.
Yes, you could do that as well.
Can I say something about my page that I just started? Kent Community Secular Alliance. It on Instagram, please. I just started a page. I have a Facebook page, but now I have an Instagram page. So
wait, do we make sure? Yeah, we linked it, right?
Yep.
Yes, we did. Guys, check out Rivka's social media links in the description, please. She does this so much. She comes here and she provides great commentary and so much valuable information. And you might as well go and show her some support. Okay,
thank
you.
Go
find her social media link in the description. Do it. Go subscribe to us, follow, like everything Rivka does in the description. Do it now. All right, bye.